What's up, everybody? Welcome to the most electrifying podcast wrestling talk show thing that exists on the internet, specifically on the YouTubes. This is Ted and Papo, the Wrestling Exchange. My name is Ted, and I'm joined with, as always,
Papo in the house. Welcome back, our viewers. We love you.
Yes, let it not be said that we don't love you, because we love you. I love you. I mean that from here. And we got some stuff we got to talk to you about, which we'll get into that later. But for now, a couple of quick things. Now, Papo and I got some plans for this channel. We want to do some big things. We got some ideas going, some money ideas. Basically, things that we want to bring up to production to you. We want to bring more content to you. We basically have big, big plans. But there's essentially a catch. What we need is more viewership interaction, specifically like, comment, subscribe, embed, share, tell your friends, go to the Facebook page, which I'll put in the video in the description box below, and just interact with us. It helps us as far as with the Facebook page. It helps us with the YouTubes, and it's going to allow us to possibly pursue other projects and be able to provide you more content. And that's going to be a win-win for everybody. So, Papo, how excited are you for, what date is this? October the 6th, Monday Night RAW, Barclays Center, New York.
Let me tell you, after watching this episode, it was a shock and a complete Shemalama Ding Dong twist for you, which we're going to go into more detail in just a minute. So, Ted, let's get this electrified ball rolling.
Getting this ball rolling. Our weekly WWE Monday Night RAW show comes to us live from the Barclays Center. Barclays Center is apparently in Brooklyn, New York. This is New York crowds are always kind of fun. They're very kind of like smarky, very, very hard wrestling fans. One of the interesting things, quickly, before we actually get into any of the segments, Papo, did you find it weird? I only realized this looking back, thinking about who was and who wasn't on the show. The show's in New York. Did you find it odd that we didn't get to see Zack Ryder on TV?
Yeah, it is kind of odd. But as the content goes on for the rest of the night, you don't even ask where Zack is.
That's true. This is true. So the show basically opens up with a video recap. Excuse me. And basically what happens here is that Rollins comes out, starts kind of angry, kind of in promo. Basically shows footage of last week's Raw, where he cursed not only Dean Ambrose but also John Cena, both of them, onto the Money in the Bank briefcase, which I believe there were also like choke slams and RKOs involved. Basically, shortly into this kind of rant he's going on, the new Stooges, if you will.
Cruiserweight division?
They should bring it back, man, except it's just the mini division. We'll make the minis, we'll make the midgets, we'll make it a minis division, and we'll do cruiserweight shit, but we'll do it with minis. That's my goal. Call it the minis division. Everybody wins. Just don't put them on right for the main event in New York. Anyway, so basically these two individuals, they come to the ring and they kind of gesture for Rollins to leave. The idea is that Rollins is putting himself in his way, right? That he's got a target painted on his back, with both Cena and Dean Ambrose consistently making a very specific and driven effort to get their hands on him for what he has done to them. Specifically, cost Cena his possible win. Well, he technically won by disqualification, but a possible title opportunity, as well as obviously turning on Dean Ambrose, and we want to see Seth Rollins get his for breaking up the Shield. Now, Rollins says, "Forget it, man. Guys, get out. I'm just going to continue to go." And then, of course, Cena comes out, rushes the ring, which causes Rollins to flee into the crowd. Rollins is kind of backstepping and backpedaling and laughing. He's like, "Ha ha, John Cena, I outsmarted you. Papo, how much did you enjoy it when they do the spot where Seth Rollins thinks he's talking to one of the Stooges and kind of like taps him on the arm like, haha, look at what I did to this jerk. And then who's standing next to him? But motherfucking Dean Ambrose.
That was hilarious. He did not expect that at all. It was great. I mean, it was like to be expected, but yet not expected. I don't know if you don't catch that or whatnot, but he turned to his right, and Ambrose is standing right there, and then proceeds to beat the crap out of him in the crowd, and you know the crowd loves that pop. So as of right now, it was definitely a great start to the show.
Yeah, man, it was super entertaining, and of course this encouraged Rollins to kind of flee from Ambrose, and we have this kind of monkey in the middle game where he wants to get away from Ambrose because Ambrose is in the crowd and he wants to kick his ass, but he can't go to the ring because John Cena's in the ring and he's waiting for him and he wants to kick his ass, but somehow he makes it over the barrier. He comes back in the ring area, we'll just say, if you will.
If you will.
And basically, I guess, I don't know if he forgot that John Cena was there, but John Cena just jumps and starts putting the boots to him. And then Dean Ambrose jumps up on the barricade and, like, kind of dives on both of them, taking both out because, you know, screw it. He's Dean Ambrose. He's the lunatic fringe, as Michael Cole likes to put it. Of course, this ends up being separated and broken up by the Authority and their henchmen, i.e. Jamie Noble, Joey Mercury, some referees, some security, things like that. And basically the Authority comes, Stephanie says, we're not going to allow this show to dissolve into chaos before it gets started, which is kind of funny because it already did get started. And basically goes on to say that Seth let his ego get in the way, and that's why he keeps finding himself in trouble. And then Triple H books a handicap tag match for the main event, or excuse me, later on in the night, which would be John Cena and Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins, Kane, and Randy Orton. Now that match we'll get to momentarily. But I have a concern, and Papo, I'd like to hear your opinion on it. I'm sure you, as well as I did, saw this particular booking coming up. It has Teddy Long written all over it. Holla, 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 playa, tag team match. You know, it's just straight. It's like Teddy Long booking, and then was it frustrating to basically see the same, almost the exact same match booked again for the third Raw in a row?
It was disappointing, and it's starting to drag now. I mean, as of right now, we have Orton and Kane wiping Rollins' ass, and then it's just Stephanie and Triple H just calling all the shots, and it's the same monotonous build-up to a pay-per-view. Yeah,
it is getting stale, right? Like, I mean, yeah, they're changing certain things. So it goes from, like, instead of a 2-on-2 to a 2-on-3, but still, I mean, you're involving the same characters. It's getting kind of old hat. It's kind of passé at this point. But we come to find out that the story and the actual match itself was orchestrated in such a way that we had some really interesting stuff to get into. Almost maybe the second most interesting thing in the whole show. But before we can get to that, we have to talk about the last week's segment where Big Show tears down the Russian flag. Papo, you remember that, right?
I'm a real American. Fight for what's right. Fight for your life.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I don't know where I went, but so last week, for those of you who don't know, and you should, because you should be watching our videos because we talk about it, because that's a thing we do here. And basically, he tears down the Russian flag. Now, after the segment aired last week, WWE out on interwebs and kind of issued a general apology to, I guess it's because they have fans in Russia. And there was actually an incident later on in this particular show where they kind of address that issue that, like, hey, we don't hate Russians. We just hate assholes. And but we'll get to that later. But my question is, do you think first question, do you think Big Show pulling down the flag of Russia? Yeah, well, we'll start with that. Do you think that was a bad move on WWE's part?
Yes, it was. I mean, because honestly, you don't want to disrespect the whole country, especially if they have fans in that country. I mean, the Big Show could have just easily just chased him around the arena and threatened to eat him or something, you know. But as of right now, it was a bad move on WWE to go ahead and tear down that flag. So they could have taken different measures for shock value for TV. So
I got one for you because I've been thinking about this all week. So
go for it.
Flags are interesting, right? Because all a flag really is it's a piece of fabric, cloth, whatever, what have you, that represents the ideas or the ideals of that particular nation, right? Like, for example, in this country, in the U.S. of A., so to speak, we are provided certain particular freedoms of freedom of speech, more specifically freedom of expression. One of those things that can be done is that there can be, at least in this country, kind of a desecration of the American flag. And if you really want to see something cool, I advise everyone, obviously, after this video is over, go. Don't do it now. Do it later. Check out Penn and Teller, Burn the American Flag. They do a magic trick, and it's really like if you're into like heart tugging, you know, patriotic shit. It's cool, but it's very modern, and it really kind of emphasizes the idea of what speech is and what is a flag. Now, that being said, that brings me to my next point. Since it would be a bad move to do things to the flags of other nations, we've actually seen, right? I think we saw Shawn Michaels stick the Canadian flag up his nose. I believe he wiped his ass with it at one point. I mean, this has happened before.
Yeah, it's happened plenty of times. I mean, there's totally like continental rifts between one nationality and another. Shawn Michaels wiping his ass with the Canadian flag. The Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, some of the patrons that actually started the whole Russia versus America, the Middle East versus America. I mean, it's a played out scenario that's gone through years through the wrestling industry. So I mean, it's nothing new to us.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that too, because the evil foreigner gimmick has been around probably since the inception of professional wrestling, as far as a presentation, as a
if you will.
If you will. And basically, we're going to get T-shirts made that just say "if you will" on it. But basically, it's my understanding, and I could be wrong. If I am, comment down below, let me know. But the first real incarnate of that was kind of like your World War II, late 1930s, early 1940s. And mid-1940s, where you had the kind of the World War II axis of evil. So you had guys like Professor Tanaka and Mr. Fuji, who were doing the evil Japanese guys. And then you had Fritz von Erich, you had Baron von Raschke, and a number of other characters over the years that were, you know, playing up the Nazi, you know, the evil German Nazi, even though most of them either weren't German or just obviously weren't Nazis. But it's an old thing, right? And that transitioned into one of the greatest evil foreigners out there, which would have been the Iron Sheik, one of my all-time favorites. And shortly down that list after the Iron Sheik, I would argue that Muhammad Hassan needs a spot on that list because he was really good. It just never really panned out for him. So what I'm getting at here, though, with the evil foreigner gimmick the way it is, and with WWE's international fan base and the idea that the network is global, and we wanted in basically every country that you could have a video on demand service and internet streaming video, things like that. I would propose, and I'd like to hear your thoughts, and also the thoughts of the viewers, and again, comment down below. You send a video response, whatever, all that's cool. What would you think of, instead of desecrating another country's flag, making it a point to desecrate our flag? More specifically, Big Show rips down the Russian flag, maybe Rusev rips down the American flag and stomps on it and gets that good old heel or heat. What would you think about that?
Dude, somebody would die that night. To desecrate the American flag on American soil in front of the millions
and millions
of WWE fans, whoever were to desecrate the flag would literally die. I'd be scared for his life, dude. I would seriously be. I mean, honestly, he's a wrestler, he's a performer, but if he were to desecrate the American flag, somebody would attempt something on his life.
Well, they kind of did something similar to that, right? Like if you know anything about our boy Sergeant Slaughter, right? You remember back when he was doing the Iraqi sympathizer gimmick, where he was praising Saddam Hussein, and he didn't even do anything to the United States flag. He just burned a Hulkamania shirt, and people just lost their shit. I think, I'm not saying burn the flag, I'm not saying spit on the flag, injure the flag, rip the flag, because the flag is just a representation of the freedoms that we have in this country, and technically flag desecration in this country is protected speech. All I'm saying is that if you want to get this guy heat, if you want to make this guy a hateable dude, because more and more Rusev goes out, people like him because he's fucking awesome. You want to put some heat on this guy, I say we go old school, have him stomp on the American flag. Maybe you don't do it in the heartland of America. Maybe you don't do it in New York. But maybe you do it somewhere where you're going to get heat from the crowd, but I don't know, less likely for someone to shoot it. I think it would be great. And I mentioned Sergeant Slaughter only because he had talked about in various interviews that he was getting threats on his life by fans, which is a bad thing, but I would argue at the same time, from a business standpoint and from a storyline standpoint, is a good thing, right? Because that lets you know that people hate this dude and they want to see him get his ass kicked. I'd book it. You probably wouldn't. Am I right on that?
No, I wouldn't book it. I mean, honestly, you got to think about the welfare of the wrestler's life. And for Sergeant Slaughter to come out and say that he had threats on his life for just burning the Hulkamania shirt, it's not worth it. I mean, it is probably something that'll haunt the performer for the rest of his days.
Maybe I'm just crazy. I'd book it.
Yes, you are.
I'd book it. I'd book that, and I'd book Alice as the inspirational world champion, along with many other crazy, crazy things I would do. Nonetheless, Papo, are you ready? Oh, shit, we forgot to mention that the Big Show's attending sensitivity training. What do you think about Big Show attending sensitivity training, and more specifically, would it be worthwhile segments if they featured Dr. Shelby from the Kane and Daniel Bryan anger management storyline?
I got one thing to say about that. Gay!
I don't know, man. I thought Dr. Shelby, Kane, and Daniel Bryan were some of the best segments for a long time in that show. But again, it's something new. It's something interesting. It's interesting to hear your thoughts. I'd book it. Fuck it. I'd book just about everything. So moving right along, keeping that ball rolling, Papo, we got some interesting shit going down here. Now, you and I have spoke at length about certain things on this show, and we have seen it come to pass in the 19 and only 19 episodes of this show we've done so far. Certain things that we've said, suggested, and complained about have changed. So WWE, I'm waiting on that check. You can call me at 555-555-5555. Probably too many fives, but whatever, for Loco. Point being, I've been complaining about the haka the Usos. We had the Dust Brothers and Cesaro versus the Usos and Ziggler, and the Usos, no Haka. How did you feel about this? Because I know you're a big Usos fan.
When it's just the Usos, you'll definitely see the Haka. But when they do others, such as like the six-man tag or singles bout, you really don't see it. So I can understand with this up-and-coming match being a six-man tag that there was no Haka. So I didn't even stress that. Why are you stressing?
I can't help it. It's just what I do for a living. Stress. That's what I do. Or deal with. I don't know. Fuck it. So this match was technically it's the first match on the card, and again last week, and maybe even the week before, the opening match kind of killed it, right? What did you think about this match?
Well, I mean, just to start off, it had like a tornado tag feel to it. I mean, they had all 6 men in the ring, and they just started to go at each other, and it was building up to be an awesome match, if you will.
If you will.
So, and then Order came into play, and then they had the single out. But what grabbed my attention the most during this match was the triple super kick.
Oh my God, that was crazy, right?
That was awesome. That had me. It woke me up. Put it that way. It definitely woke me up. I got hit with the triple super kick during that match.
All I have in my notes is in caps, triple super kick. Yeah, man, that was fucking awesome, right? So I'm a big fan of the super kick, and I know it's been done before in random AFEDs. I think there's a team out there called the Young Wolves that have done that, the multiple super kicks, the 2 guys, 3 guys, things like that. But this is the first time and I may be wrong on this, and if I am, again, comment down below. But I think this is the first time that we've ever seen a 3-man super kick on WWE television. Am I out of line in saying that?
I don't remember ever seeing it ever. And I mean ever.
Speaking of ever, which this is probably the worst segue ever. Get it? See what I did there? We got to talk about the greatest sleeper hold transition of all time. So I like the sleeper hold, right? A lot of wrestling fans don't like it today because sleeper hold is known as a rest hold, right? It's they're gonna take time. Well, boo, this is boring. I don't want psychology. I want spots. I want to see a guy do cool shit. So the sleeper is one of those moves that, especially if you're in front of a smart crowd, specifically like a Northeast crowd and here, also a Brooklyn crowd, you're not going to bust out a sleeper hold, especially if you're the babyface. Dolph Ziggler is so goddamned over. Not only can he use the sleeper hold, he can use it consistently as a signature move, and this match, I don't, it's hard for me to even see it in my brain now, so I made sure to type it down just to kind of get a grasp of what happened, because it's easily, in my opinion, the coolest sleeper hold ever. It's off the ropes into, I think it was Cesaro, and does like a tilt-a-whirl head scissors. But on the way out, instead of him doing the whip where his head goes the other way and the other guy goes this way and takes a bump or a somersault bump, instead of any of that, Dolph Ziggler transitions that last part of the head scissors and swings around, takes Cesaro's back, puts on the sleeper. Papo, I gotta know, is this not the coolest way to put on a sleeper hold? Like ever.
It was the sweetest way ever. The sweetest way ever. I mean, usually you see him go around and they'll do like a Hurricane Rana or transition to a DDT, but he locked in that sleeper hold faster than anything. And just to let people know, the sleeper hold works. I've done it to people, and I've had it done to me. It is a real move, so don't think that's play or anything. That is a serious move, and you can seriously hurt somebody. So don't try that at home.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the sleeper holds like legit. It's one of those holds that when you watch pro wrestling, you would never think it's something legit, but if you were to use it, its origins come from the fact that it's a real legit hold. It's not a choke, but it's very similar to a real choke. The only difference is you're essentially you have you put them in kind of like a yeah. What you're essentially doing is you're applying pressure to the carotid arteries, which are these major veins that run. It's either I think it's to the heart or from the heart. Either way, they're pumping an insane amount of blood, and this is the path directly to the brain. So when you slap a sleeper hold on a dude, what you're doing is you're cutting off the circulation of those arteries, and that it's called a sleeper hold because that shit will put you to sleep in seconds. I mean, Papo, I mean, it's like literally seconds.
I'm in total agreement. I mean, again, I've been put in a sleeper hold. I have applied the sleeper hold to people, and it's a legitimate wrestling move.
Absolutely.
Try saying that after drinking that loco.
How many times do I have to say it?
Just once, dude.
It's a legitimate wrestling move. Excuse me. So, Jimmy Uso, at least I think it's Jimmy Uso, wins with the Samoan Splash, that's what they're calling it, which I'm okay with, even though most people are going to know this as the Frog Splash. I had a good question, and I've been thinking about this too recently. So we're talking about the Usos. They're the sons of Rikishi, Fatu, one of the sons of the Wild Samoans. I think he's Sika's kid. The legendary Anoa'i Samoan wrestling family. And if you've noticed, the Uso brothers have slowly started to, well, not slowly, but have incremented Rikishi, right? Like for a while they would do the almost, it was like the Too Cool dance, and then they at the end of their matches, and then they do that Samoan. It's like a charging ass to the head. What would you call that move? Where they got the guy seated in the corner and they just run and just stick their ass in their face.
I would call it the super stink face.
The super stink face. I'm going. That works for me. So they have the super stink face. I mean, they obviously don't do that, the cheek rubbing and whatnot. But so they've kind of incorporated it. And if I'm not mistaken, that was kind of a signature move of Umaga. Probably not the first guy to do it. And Umaga, in my opinion, has always been one of my favorite Samoan wrestlers. So I have a question, Papo. What if either the Usos or probably more preferably Roman Reigns? What if let's say Roman Reigns. What if Roman Reigns comes off his injury and starts to incorporate the Samoan spike? Not as a finisher, but as a signature move. Would you be okay with that?
I would be totally okay with that. I mean, that move was awesome. And the thing is, they sold it so well, it got over on a crowd real quick. And when they saw the thumb go up, that was it. Everybody was there was an awesome pop from the crowd.
Yeah, man. And I guess part of that is because it's a really cool move, but also it was and Umaga's one of my favorites. Rest in peace. You were the greatest. Papa, anything you else had to have, or anything else you had to add? Excuse me. To that segment before we keep this ball rolling, and to possibly the worst segment of the night.
Let's keep the ball rolling.
Keeping it rolling. We had Adam Rose, of course, being accompanied by the Rosebuds. Bringing out Kathy Lee and Hoda. Now, I know who Kathy Lee is, right? She's that bitch that used to do the show with Regis Philbin, right? Fun fact, Regis Philbin is actually a Marine, and he's also 2,000 years old. Who the fuck is Hoda? Who the fuck is this one-name-having bitch who's not a professional wrestler? Like, we got one name. What's that about? Who's this Hoda bitch? Do you know who this bitch is?
I have no clue who this bitch is.
Good, because I don't either, and I don't want to be alone in that. So this one name. So they come to the ring, and proceed to have easily the worst received segment in quite some time. So I guess the idea was that I think they do like Good Morning America, which, if I'm not mistaken, airs right out of New York, or is filmed right in New York. So I guess the thought process was, hey, we'll just throw them out there because, you know, the fucking New Yorkers loved it when we put Michael Strahan out there. Let's just throw them out there. That was they tried to pump up the crowd. They were like, this is where things happen, WWE Universe. They sit down, there's a table, there's wine involved. One of them smashes a bottle of wine over the other's ass. This was fucking terrible. It ultimately leads to Adam Rose, and they got booed out of the building, by the way. Adam Rose encouraging them to come to the apron of the ring on the outside and basically do the trust fall into his rosebuds. And Papo, do you know what I was thinking?
Everybody move.
Exactly. You know what? Please drop these women. Drop this fucking segment and drop the writer, whoever came up with it, because this was awful. And this kind of leads into my overall point here. And I'd like to know what you think. And more specifically, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to know what you think in the comments section below. Aside from television personalities that have made a career as being an athlete, do you think that they should ever be in a wrestling ring beyond standing? No sitting, no talking, no segment. Do you think that shit belongs? Does it just weaken the product?
Honestly, it does. I mean, with this whole segment, I mean, was just garbage. I mean, I understand that they're going to go ahead and bring on Pops for, breast cancer awareness month, but again, this segment we could have done without. I would have rather watched two jabronis go at it.
Yeah, man, this was pretty bad. This is like the equivalent of watching paint dry. But here's a question, right? Because this segment didn't have to be terrible. Would you have been okay with it if it was just about a 60-second clip of them bumping into someone backstage and like, hey, this is who we are, like coming out on the ramp, saying a couple things, and then leaving, as opposed to, because how they presented it is, oh, well, these bitches are smashing on their asses. They're hardcore. It's almost making the product look weak and kind of like, hey, wink, wink, nod, nod, wrestling's fake. You know, which again, not fake, scripted. Very real injuries and lost an ear in this business, but it's too tongue-in-cheek, right? I mean, it's okay for wrestling to reference itself and be self-aware, but this is just fucking awful. This is just from the perspective of almost as if someone who has never watched wrestling before said, hey, we got to put these bitches on TV, let's do this. I mean, this was just awful, right? I mean, can we just agree that this was an abomination and should be erased from television history as if it never happened?
I'm in concurrence with you.
All right, so which is worse? This segment? Which is worse? This segment or the Chris Benoit tragedy?
Ooh. I actually paid attention to the Chris Benoit tragedy, though.
Yeah, and I don't mean to make light of the Chris Benoit tragedy. I'm essentially just putting over the fact that this angle was terrible, and it helped no one. It didn't help the WWE. It didn't help the two of them. It's not helping anybody on the roster, and it damn sure isn't helping the fans. It's kind of like a segment that just does negative business, right? And nobody wants to see that. Not best for business. Papa, one last question on the segment. Was there any part of you that wishes the Shield was still around, that they could have been doing their stupid schlocky shtick, only to hear Sierra Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta, the Shield, and then they just come out and fucking destroy these women?
It would have been funny. I would have laughed. Dun 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 dun. I would have been laughing so hard.
Or the Wyatts. If the Wyatts came out, that would be good, right? That would have saved us from this segment. Maybe he gives him Sister Abigail. Who knows? I don't know. Speaking of the Wyatts, Papo, segues aplenty here. We got another Luke Harper video package Bray Wyatt is saying he fixed Luke Harper, and the problem is that Luke Harper was taught to wear the skin of a king, and that he's fixed him, and now he set him free. Are you excited for this? Are we getting a face turn out of Harper? Are we going to say he's no longer affiliated with the Wyatts? Does this free up room for more Wyatts?
I think it frees up the room for more Wyatts. I think they're going to put special attention to the other Wyatts so they can go ahead and actually start building up, maybe even get into the singles competition, holding gold. So as of right now, I mean, it looks as if they're going to give Luke some sort of a push, if you will.
If you will.
So he can probably hold on to some gold.
Well, now that we've talked about it, we have to talk about the inspirational one. Ladies and gentlemen, the man with one of the most impressive and important streaks in the history of sports entertainment. I'm talking about not Rob Van Dam, because I have to keep my thumbs in the frame for you to understand. I'm talking about Bo Leave and Mr. Bo Dallas versus Mark Henry. Papo, I know you were excited about this match.
No, not really. I started to play Candy Crush.
Oh, terrible. Well, I enjoyed it. I liked it, right? It was really good psychology here, really good storytelling. That there's no way in hell Bo Dallas should ever get a one-up on Mark Henry, right? In no realm of reality should Bo Dallas ever possibly beat Henry. Yet I believe this will be the third time he's beaten him. But he's Henry's. I mean, maybe you could do that. Bo Dallas is a little bit faster, maybe a little bit stronger, maybe a little bit more cunning, but very much a chicken shit. But at the end of the day, sexual chocolate. He takes Dallas outside the ring and intends to put him through the commentary table, only for Dallas to kind of like slide into the ring last minute, beating the 10 count. Bo Dallas wins by count out. I was in love with this. Again, we have a frustrated Mark Henry, which is always a good thing because last week he just beat the tar out of Bo Dallas backstage and told him what he does. But did you catch any of this segment? I know that you were heavily involved in some Candy Day Crush.
Yeah, I paid attention to the match. It's just that how Bo Dallas got the win on this. I mean, you can put him in the cunning category, if you will, because I know you will.
Oh, I will.
Got the win off a countout, which, I mean, I've said it many, many times before, where a countout is a cheap way to win, and I really don't consider a countout to be a win. It annoys me so bad.
I agree with you, but yet I disagree with you because I do think that there's what you're saying is really legitimate, right? It's the same thing as a roll-up finish. It's one of those things that you can do, but it's only good for certain occasions. And the problem is that we've been conditioned to see these types of finishes repeatedly, so much so that when it happens, instead of getting that genuine reaction that the fans would want, you end up getting like a eye roll, because psychology-wise, that's the only way Bo Dallas could have beat Mark Henry. But if we didn't see count-out finishes all the time or roll-up finishes all the time, this just wouldn't be so bad. I mean, right?
Right.
All right. Well, now that I've upset you because I was putting over Bo Dallas, we got the lunatic fringe. Dean Ambrose cutting a promo. How basically challenges John Cena to come out, and they have a little bit of back and forth. It got pretty tense. I'm curious, Papo, what were your overall thoughts on this promo? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you like what they touched on? And did you like what they kind of set up?
Yeah, honestly, it was an awesome setup. I love the banter between Ambrose and Cena. And as of right now, that gives Ambrose, if he gets to go that one-on-one with Cena, I mean, it'll just help his career, period. And the way they had set it up, I mean, it was humorous, very humorous, which we'll get into, which is going to lead into the main event. So, if you will, get this ball rolling.
So, yeah, basically what happens is that they have this kind of verbal exchange. And Ambrose basically, says, shows a clip of him suffering a beating at the hands of Orton and Kane last week on SmackDown, which they reference SmackDown so much in this show, I wish I would have actually watched it. Because, goddamn, like every segment was related to SmackDown. Good continuity here, WWE. Good job. Good job. Attaboy. So basically, he says, John, please, indulge me with your presence. Because basically what happened on SmackDown is that they had a 2-on-2 tag match, and then Rollins showed up, and then it's kind of like shades of the breakup of the Mega Powers, where Miss Elizabeth gets out and Hogan takes Elizabeth back and kind of abandons the Macho Man, but in a way, but it's different and it's fresh. Where here, Seth Rollins shows up, Dean Ambrose is busy getting his shit kicked in the ring, and then John Cena sees it, Rollins, runs off, Ambrose gets his ass beat, essentially, or just about, and then Cena shows up a dollar short and a day late, only after the incident occurs, and then he basically goes on to shoot this promo, or cut this promo on Cena, says, like, look, I don't give a crap about you, and you don't give a crap about me. The only thing we have in common is that we don't care about what other people think about us, so we both want our hands on Seth Rollins. And then, of course, Cena tells him you got guts. Things get super intense. And Ambrose says, I'm kind of hungry. I think I'm going to have a hot dog. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, what is going on? And then he says he's going to take the Q train down to Coney Island, get a hot dog, ride a couple of rides, and I'll see you later, John. And then basically drops the mic. Was this fun? Because right after this, they do a commercial break after the commercial break, they show Ambrose getting on the train, which I'm sure was pre-taped either days or weeks in advance, because I don't think this was legit, him going to Coney Island. I'm sure it wasn't. Did you like this? The idea that where he's just like, oh, you're going to leave me high and dry, dude? I'll leave you high and dry, but I'm gonna see the sights.
It was actually pretty cool, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it set up Cena to be that handicap match all by himself. And what do we love? A victim.
Oh, yeah.
Especially to get beat down by 3 other guys. For real.
Yeah. So after the commercial break, like I mentioned, we see Dean Ambrose getting into the subway train. Backstage, Triple H bumps into John Cena. And I'm telling you, we've talked about this before. The character that Triple H portrays now is his best heel persona ever. I'm going to argue to say it. Because it's almost as if he has tapped into all the hate that's kind of spewed about him on the internet. And it's just said, well, you know what, you guys don't like me? Fine, I'll give you reasons not to like me. I'll live up to those things you're saying about me. Like, for years, people would go on the internet and they'd say, Triple H is burying people. He's burying people, burying this guy, burying that guy. And an argument definitely could be made, at least that he buried Booker T. But then when he feuds with Daniel Bryan for WrestleMania, he says, I'm going to bury Daniel Bryan. It's awesome. It's very, like, self-aware, really cool stuff. So he bumps into Cena. He says, the champ is here. Kind of mocks him. And basically tells Cena, look, I feel bad for you. Your partner left. Gee, isn't that terrible? I'll tell you what, I'll make it up to you. I know you want your hands on Seth Rollins, so Seth Rollins will be guaranteed to start the match. Which, of course, played out as exactly how you expected, which we're not going to get into yet because we have more stuff to cover. Anything else you wanted to add before we keep this ball rolling, Papa?
Let's go ahead and keep this ball rolling.
Brie Bella had a match with Summer Rae. Summer Rae was her valet this week was Layla, which, again, I love Layla. I think she's fantastic. Brie Bella, one arm tied behind her back. This is a match that apparently, it must be during a commercial break or something, was essentially booked by Nikki, right? Because Nikki's feuding with her sister. So Brie has the match with Summer Rae, and she has her hand behind her back, and she basically knees Summer Rae in the face, not like the Daniel Bryan knee, but similar to it. And then, again, continues to invoke our love of Daniel Bryan with the yeses. I fucking hate it. She should get her own shit now. It's really starting to get on my nerves. Bell to bell, this was a match that was literally not even 2 minutes. It was exactly 1 minute and 55 seconds. Remember that number, because we're going to come back to that in a few moments. But, Papo, did you have anything regarding this match?
No, not really. Didn't. It had me feeling limp, if you will.
Sexually?
No, just as a wrestling fan.
I had to.
Touche, Ted. Touche.
If only we had like a boing sound effect, I'd play it. But we don't have one. Again, like, comment, subscribe. We can get the production value up. We'll have more sound effects. It'll be fun for everybody. So, quick question before we move on for the Brie Bella and Nikki Bella stuff. Would you be interested in Brie versus Nikki inside a Hell in a Cell?
That would be interesting. But they better put on a clinic, because the first spot missed, I'm playing Candy Crush.
All right, fair enough. So, moving on to the next segment, keeping this ball rolling, we have Kane backstage. He's in some sort of office. And he comes across this fruit basket that's sitting on this desk, and basically Miz, and of course his infamous stunt double, which we'll get to too, Damien Mizdow, he basically says, "I'm sorry for everything, Kane. Here's a basket of organic, straight from LA fruit basket. Enjoy." Kane, not happy, basically books Miz versus Sheamus, and then Mizdow, kind of like leaves the frame, comes back in the frame, and like snatches the fruit away in disgust. How entertaining was this segment, being that it was about just as long as that Brie Bella match?
This segment was way better than the Bella match. Way better. I mean, Mizdow is coming a long way, and right now, as a stunt double, he is on point, which we will get into more detail about that in just a moment. But this whole segment was better than that Brie Bella match. Hands down.
And when we get to it, I'll argue that Mizdow's a fucking wizard, because he pulled some magic on this show. Well, we'll get to that in a minute, though. Jack Swagger versus Tyson Kidd. We haven't actually seen Tyson Kidd compete on a Raw for a little bit now. They did a spot where Tyson Kidd's the heel. He jumps the ring, where Swagger chases him around the side of the ring, and then he hides behind Natalya. As a Macho Man fan, I loved this. Right? This was just shit that the Macho Man would do during his heel run all the time. Hide behind the woman. It's a wonderful way to get heat, and it's a very despicable thing to do. So Swagger basically kind of tries to go for this almost the angle where the guy gets to the top, and then he just suddenly pops up and runs and does this kind of overhead belly to belly. Doesn't quite pull it off. There's a slight botch. He basically makes Tyson Kidd tap out to the Patriot Lock. 2 questions. Number 1, do you think they should have given these guys more time? And number 2, how much did you love Tyson Kidd hiding behind his wife?
Yeah, definitely had the feel of Macho Man from back in the days. It was a good spot. It wasn't botched, but they could have given these two a little bit more time to showcase some of their skills. I mean, we all know Swagger's a freaking horse, and he can go. And Tyson Kidd, I mean, he's pretty much got skills, especially from being one of the last students of the dungeon. So they could have given him just a bit more time to go ahead and showcase a little bit more. I'm in total agreement with that.
And for those of you who don't know, Tyson Kidd's being featured right now is basically one of the top heels in NXT. If you do watch NXT, you really should give it a peek, because Tyson Kidd's getting all sorts of airtime on that show, and he's finally found his place. Because we talked about this before, where it takes wrestlers sometimes it clicks right away. Sometimes it takes a long time to find that groove, that character that just works. Like Miz has finally found his, and a bunch of other guys. Damien Sandow, I don't know, I just think he came out of the womb amazing. This guy's wonderful. I don't know, if anything he does is not entertaining. But we'll get back to that. Hey, Papo, Edge and Christian joined us via satellite promoting the 15 Years of SmackDown special on the WWE Network for just $9.99. Are you excited to see this at all?
I am. I mean, there's so many awesome memories regarding the SmackDown, and to have Edge and Christian, one of the top tag team champions of their time, come in and host it is awesome. I've always been an Edge fan, and I especially like that angle they had with Gangrel as them being modern-day vampires.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome. So, I mean, it reeked of awesomeness.
Oh, I see what you did there. Hey, the Brood was fucking awesome, right? The whole vampire gimmick. You wonder how much it was awesome because, A, we're doing vampires in a time period where vampires weren't the thing. I'm going to get on a little rant here. Just allow me a moment. I have a deal with vampires, okay? 15 years ago, if you were in vampires, you were a fucking nut job. You were a trenchcoat mafia, and nobody liked you. You played way too much Dungeons and Dragons, and people just shit on you. Now, it's become so pop culture. I think there's 4 shows on the CW with vampires. When they did The Brood, it was just 3 dudes. And this would have been, what, 90, 98? 97?
Around
99?
Ron
Right?
Bouts.
And these dudes came up from you would have, you ready? Yeah. And there's this real, I can't even imitate it. This really, really creepy intro music with this piano riff, dun, 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 and this circle of fire is and then they come out through the circle of fire and it's it's awesome. It was the best. And then Gangrel drank blood. I mean, this was cool, right? This was vampires when vampires were still cool.
Definitely. One of my favorite things of the Attitude Era that has been stuck in my head. I mean, it reeked of awesomeness.
Oh, you did it again, man. I like it. Hey, if you keep that up, I have to do a 5-second pose for all those people with flash photography. But before we do that, we got to update on the B+ Player of the Year. Roman Reigns says he's coming back sooner rather than later. How excited are you for this B+ superstar to return?
You could see it in his face that he is animate about coming back. And you're a dick for saying he's a B+ player, so.
Hey man.
So.
I didn't hurt him. If he was an A+, he wouldn't have had that. He's gotten away, if you will.
If you will.
In all seriousness, though, Roman Reigns, heal up, man, come back, and start using the Samoan Spike, please. We love you. Get better soon. Hey, Papa, we have to talk about the most unfair reaction of the crowd for this show. We had El Torito and Primo and Epico, the Matadors, versus Gators. I'm going to call him Gator Swoggle. Hornswoggle in a gator costume with Titus O'Neil and Heath Slater. And they do a minis match, right? And there's some cool little mini psychology going on, and I loved it. It was no WLC because I don't think there'll ever be another WLC, or at least another minis match on that level, unless they start really committing to the idea of bringing in a minis division. But this is cool, right? It goes far back. These two have feuded for forever and a day. But the crowd takes a big, steamy, hot pile of shit all over this segment. And I have 2 things about this. One, did you enjoy it? We'll start with that. First question, did you enjoy this match for what it was?
I love the midget wrestling. PC or not, I don't care. It was introduced to me as midget wrestling, and I love it. But I don't know. This match had me not really interested. I mean, the overacting was a bit much, and it like really killed this segment.
I can definitely see that, and I can absolutely see where you would get that. My only thing is that I think when we talk about because we actually have a segment talking about greatest matches of all time, which we'll get to in a few, or favorite match of all time, which we'll get to in a few moments. But to me, half of professional wrestling is the performance, the performers, the psychology, but the other half is the crowd reaction. So you could have the best wrestling match. And when I say best wrestling match, I mean one has to look no further than 1996. Any of those Nitro matches at Disney, at WCW, which was Rey Mysterio and Dean Malenko, and they must have had like a fucking million of them. And all those matches were insane, but they were non-wrestling crowds, so you had these great matches with really shitty crowd reactions that really kind of kills it. And then you can have really bad matches. The crowd just eats it up, which kind of makes the match better. So I think in this instance, if the crowd didn't poo-poo all over this match, this would have come off as far more entertaining, at least on television. But my second question is, Papo, do you realize that this match, bell to bell, was
I'm sorry, there was a bit of lag there.
Damn it. All right. So basically, bell to bell, this match was exactly 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Is it a problem that a match that is not main event material, if you will, is longer is longer than one of the main Divas storylines by like at least 20 seconds? Is that a problem? Or better yet, it's a problem, and why is this happening?
Yeah, the match I felt was kind of short.
I see what you did there. I like it. Like the way you think. Somebody promote this, man.
Yeah, but let me tell you, I mean, the overacting just completely just drowned out my attention on this match. I mean, Heath Slater, oh my God, the Gator roll. I mean, I think it would be an awesome move if he would have been able to be, but if he was able to pull it off on El Torito, it would have been awesome. But again, it just the overacting just killed it for me. So I have no further comments on this match.
Fair enough, ladies and gentlemen. This next set, I'd like to preface this by saying that I've been feeling shitty for the past month. I've been having a lot of problems in the real world with really, really bad migraines that I'm taking medications for, and I've just been terrible and miserable. I gotta say, this next segment we're gonna talk about, no joke, real talk, has literally lightened up my entire month. Like, just made me so happy. And this was the Rusev and Lana segment. I don't know about you, Papo, but I get all sorts of crazy excited and maybe a little wet, just saying, when I hear Rusev Butia, Rusev Machka, and Rusev comes out. I'm a huge Rusev fan. They come out and they talk about it's Putin's birthday and Big Show's committed a hate crime with the crowd because they vicariously live through Big Show because they cheer him. They are bigots. And they're evil people. Before we get into the second half of that segment, because it's going to be interesting, what did you think about that?
Well, I really didn't care much about it. I mean, this Big Show having to go through sensitivity training. I mean, they might as well just cut his balls off, if you will.
If you will, they gotta be huge balls. Well, I'm saying he's a big dude. They gotta be really big balls. I'm just saying, proportions.
So at the beginning of the segment, I was just like totally just like, really? And guess what I started to do? Just take a guess, please.
I'm gonna venture to say you were considering playing WWE Supercard.
No, Candy Crush.
No joke though, real quick. I'm addicted to that game. Anybody, if you're watching, if you play WWE Supercard, challenge me, bro. I will stomp you in that game. It's like a card trading game. It's like cards, battling, training, wrestling, everything I ever wanted. Except for there's no dragons, but whatever. We can get past that. Hey, man. So I know you really didn't dig it. We're starting to see that Rusev is talking little bits here and there. I don't think a lot of people are coming out and saying this is a bad thing because this is going to not have any sort of justification for Lana being his mouthpiece. I don't agree with that. I think we can still understand that he speaks a little bit of English and she can still be his manager. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. I mean, he proved that he can speak English, so get off that bull and at least let us know what you're saying. Give us some feeling. Share your feelings, Rusev. Just share your feelings.
Hey, if he just believes, we can all share his feelings. But then, ladies and gentlemen, we got an appearance. Rusev and Lana get cut off by that jabroni beaten, pie eaten, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, one-on-one with the great one. I'm talking about the millions
and millions
of fans that came to see the Brahma Bull, the People's Champion, your hero.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
So, Papo, before we even get into anything that was said, how awesome was it that he just showed up unannounced, A, and B, how awesome was it that it was a secret and that there was nothing on the dirt sheets, no one knew about it, it was a total surprise.
Let me tell you right now, that was the best cup of coffee I've ever had in my life. It was like a slap to the face. I woke up when I heard that theme music, and one of my favorites of all time coming out there, and the biggest pop in months from the crowd. I mean, he sparked a firecracker and it blew the dome off the stadium for real.
It was crazy, right?
It was awesome. It was like watching the touchdown pass on a Super Bowl. It was the best cup of coffee I've had in months.
Yeah, and this totally lifted my spirits. Like I said, I've been having a miserable month. But yeah, man, it was incredible. And it was so incredible that I almost counted, but it seemed like there was just 10 minutes of catchphrases and people chanting The Rock's name before he even really got into cutting a promo on Lana and Rusev. Basically, couple of quick things. Number one, do you think Rusev is now smelling what The Rock is cooking? Number two, is it just me, or did by virtue of The Rock just showing up, save the entire show? And three, by virtue of Rock basically punking out Rusev and stating that it's not that we don't like you because you're Russian, it's that we don't like you because you're an asshole. What were your just overall thoughts in the exchange between the two and basically how things went down?
1, yes. 2, yes. 3, yes. Now, will we see a Rock?
Yes.
For real. For real. Yes. And let me say, are we going to see The Rock and Rusev at the next pay-per-view?
I'll tell you my thoughts on that.
Comment down below.
Hell yeah. Come on, people. Seriously. I love Rusev. I think he's amazing. I love Rock coming back. I want you to like, comment, subscribe, share, embed, go to the Facebook page. Link will be in the description box down below. Do all of those things. And I have an idea. And I'm sure it's going to piss you off, but I'm going to pitch it to you anyway. Rock comes out, shoots on Rusev, says he has called him a Moscow moose. Said he had a Moscow moose knuckle. He said he had a Bulgarian beanbag or Chewbacca's beanbag, whatever the hell it was hilarious. Basically admitted a fact that we all know that Lana is smoking, and I would love to eat with that pair of chopsticks. But he basically punches Rusev. Rusev is amazing. He just takes a bump right over the top rope onto the mats. My question. Obviously, the Great One shows up, does his thing. It's actually a two-part question. Number one, do you think it would be better to have more random appearances to hype up the idea that you should go to our live shows because you never know when someone is just going to show up unannounced, A, and B, was there any part of you, because there was a very large part of me, that wanted to see Rusev just beat the shit out of The Rock?
Well, for your first part, right there, that is an excellent money-making strategy. They should have random people just pull up out of the blue, a Hall of Famer, an old wrestler, someone that has not been in quite a while, just to hype up the crowd. And two, really, Rusev beat the shit out of The Rock? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Hey, man, let me just paint the picture for you. Let me give you the argument, okay? I see with that finger you're telling me you think I'm number one, and I really appreciate that.
Only for you, Ted. Only for you.
So, the reason why I mention this is that Rusev is being put over as this unbeatable monster. Yes, he's technically lost a match or two, I think because of disqualification, but I don't consider that him losing in the sense of no one's actually beaten him. So in my mind, he's still kind of undefeated. No one's pinned his shoulders to the mat for the count of three, and no one's made him tap out or submit, right? It just hasn't happened. Nobody's really beaten him clean. So there's so few main eventers right now, so few stars, if you will. I'm telling you, that's a T-shirt right there. That's T-shirt. T-shirts, bumper stickers, hats, whatever. Doing it. Come on, peoples. Help us out. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll get those T-shirts made. But you can take it like Rusev, who we believe to be a legitimate threat up until a certain point, right? Because no one's beaten him, and he's gone through everybody. Obviously, in a lot of people's mind, and I kind of feel it too, that the end game is to feed him to John Cena. But let's just say, in my crazy world where I book shit that you would hate, I would book Rusev to just destroy The Rock. Here's why. The Rock's not going to look weak here if Rusev destroys him, because it's not a match, and Rock's not an active competitor. Yes, he's the Great One, but he's making movies. He's not having wrestling matches. So it's believable that someone who's in ring shape could get the better of. Two, that would put Rusev as a believable main eventer. I wouldn't say put the title on him, but you could put him in the mix for the title, and it would be believable because, dude, this guy just beat the shit out of The Rock on last week's Raw. I would do it. But then again, I would do all sorts of crazy stuff. I would have a whole minis division. I would do all sorts of nutty things that WWE would never do. Please call me. I got ideas. So, now that we got the Great One, we got our fix. We got the Brahma Bull. We got all that good stuff. We got the People's Champion, that whole thing. I'd like to kind of keep this ball rolling because we only have a couple more things to get into before the show's over. Are you ready to keep it rolling, Papo?
Let's keep this ball rolling, Ted.
All right. Keeping it rolling in a rather quick manner, we had Paige and Alicia Fox versus AJ Lee. Now, AJ Lee, they basically set up this match where Alicia Fox is Paige's new best friend, and they kind of did this thing on Twitter where AJ Lee's like, I don't have any friends, and Emma comes out. Now, I have watched Emma on NXT, and she is really, really good. But there's the problem with bringing up to the main roster is they use her so infrequently, and because of how they use her, her character really isn't understood for the masses, and I'll explain. She does a series of moves. She does this kind of like backwards. She skins the cat through the ropes to get into the ring. She does the Tajiri tarantula. But there's certain moves that she does where perceivably she's not good at it, right? Where like when she does that thing where she kind of does that reverse skinning the cat to get in the ring, where she walks up, grabs the ropes, and then kind of goes backwards through. It's by design that it looks like she barely makes it every time. But the main TV crowd that's not the NXT crowd, who doesn't see that all the time, isn't going to get that aspect of her character, which is a shame because she's really good. Basically, this match, and I didn't bother to time it, was really entertaining. You had AJ Lee on the apron getting really upset at Emma as Emma's getting all her Emma shit in. And she's like, just cover her, just pin her. And was there any part of you that wondered if this was a shoot or if this was on AJ Lee's part? Because she ended up walking out on Emma, only for Emma to lose by a Cradle DDT by Paige. Your thoughts?
Well, AJ was telling Emma to go ahead and pin, I think it was Alicia, and Emma walked around the ring like an SLD kid. What's this? I mean, I like to party, but I've never seen nobody do this in the club, and it was quite annoying. It's like she was trying to show off, but then yet it wrestled at the same time. But, I mean, she looked like a dumb tart in the ring, for real.
And that's one of the interesting things that I kind of tried to allude to, is that she does certain things with her character, which if they frequent her, if they gave her more time on regular TV, you would realize that it's not that she's dumb or that she looks bad. It's kind of almost by design, where she's like just a regular girl who's just smoking hot, that just happens to be a pro wrestler. And I don't know. I really dig it. I think Emma's amazing. But yeah, Emma loses, which is cool because Paige and Emma have a history on NXT. Keeps Alicia Fox strong, keeps Paige strong, keeps AJ Lee strong. Emma can take the loss because they're not really doing anything with Emma. Anything else? Oh, here's an idea, Papo, and I'm just going to throw this out to you, see what you think. You like Paige's Cradle DDT, right? It's a thing of beauty, correct?
Oh, definitely a thing of beauty. Awesome move. Executed perfectly.
I'd like to make a suggestion. I don't think it's executed perfectly. I think it's executed about 90% perfectly. You know what it's missing?
What's missing?
Aside from Mo Dallas, what it's missing, that's a joke, by the way. What it's missing is a facial reaction, right? Like imagine, she gets the girl up, she's got her legs around the hips, she's got her in the DDT clutch, she looks out at the crowd, maybe she sticks her tongue out, maybe she does like an Undertaker. There's just a little bit of flair that's missing, no pun intended. Just a little bit of pizzazz, if you will. Just a little bit of, I don't know, what would you call that? Like a little bit of,
if you will.
If you will. A little bit of chutzpah.
A little bit of tenacity.
Yeah, right. Something that shows physically on her face, like, I'm going to destroy this woman. You know,
the tenacity, intensity, any other cities that you want to throw in there.
All cities. It's, you know what it is? It's like it would be the equivalent of Austin giving the bird kick to the gut stunner. It's just another layer to make the move much more entertaining to watch. Just like when The Rock does the people's elbow. He takes off the elbow pad slowly, gives the eyebrow, throws it in the crowd, does the whole bullshit run back and forth thing, which is, I'm not saying it's bullshit and it's terrible. I'm saying it's kind of really unbelievable out of all the things. But yeah, I think it would be another layer. Really, really interesting. Hey, Papo, we mentioned why segments where we're getting more and more of these individual segments for the first time, if I'm not mistaken, or at least the first time on Raw. We've seen a Wyatt family video dedicated to Eric Rowan being set free. What were your initial reactions on this?
Well, again, Rowan doesn't really he has awesome strength, but his in-ring skills are still like with me.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have that tenacity that Luke Harper and then Brett has, right? So I just watched it and I was like totally not interested, to be honest.
Fair enough. I mean, I could understand why. Like, the perception is that he's the guy that wears the sheep mask, right? You have Bray, who's Kevin Sullivan, and then you have Luke Harper, who's kind of like a Bruiser Brody, but can also do like high flying shit, and who's just amazing, and who's gonna have a very, very long career. And I'm gonna argue that he's gonna have a career that probably mirrors The Undertaker, not in the sense of the character, but in the sense of here's a big man who can work like a big man, but could also do these crazy, very incredible feats that just will leave you stunned, and probably should be saved for maybe once a year or once a pay-per-view, something like that. But nonetheless, I'm excited for it just because if Rowan fails, I want to see him fail on his own. I don't want to see him fail as part of the group, because if he fails on his own, then that's him. If he fails as part of the group, then the whole group looks bad. But I'm excited, and I hope that it ends up really well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get into the Wizard, Damien Mizdow with The Miz versus Sheamus. Papo, the crowd was going nuts for no one but Mizdow during this match. We got Mizdow chants, we got Sandow chants, we got We Want Sandow. One question. Oh, yeah, two questions. Is it... trying to think of a better way to word this. We'll start with the one question then. Your thoughts on this match?
Well, the match was actually pretty good. I mean, Miz and Sheamus, awesome to watch them go at each other, but we've seen it so many times, and the moves are actually getting predictable. But it lost the attention of the crowd. Big time.
Yeah.
And Mizdow stole the whole show from Sheamus and The Miz.
And not only did he steal the show, to my point earlier, I think Mizdow's a wizard. I'm convinced that man knows how to work magic. And I'm going to explain it, right? So you and I both agree that this was actually a pretty good match. It's just that the crowd wasn't into it, right?
Right.
So on the outside, anytime Mizdow is taking the offense, anytime Miz is taking the offense, Mizdow is basically pantomiming his gestures. But then anytime Miz takes damage, Mizdow's kind of reacting to it negatively. He's almost like Miss Elizabeth for the Macho Man, where the whole deal was she didn't do much, she didn't say much, but she humanized Macho Man because we got to feel his pain through her. Like, even though he was kind of a dick to her, she could just exude emotion, if you will. And I'm not sure if I'm using that correctly, but fuck it, we'll go for it. So with Mizdow, you're getting almost the same thing, except here's where the magic comes into play. And I had to explain this to my wife, and she didn't get it. During the match, Mizdow is so over with the crowd. They're just going nuts for Mizdow. Mizdow realizes, and this is how good this guy is. Just to keep this in perspective, psychology-wise. Sheamus is a babyface. Miz is a heel. The overall objective is to get the crowd behind the babyface, so that way when the babyface is done getting the heat from the heel, he's able to make his comeback. The crowd rallies to him. They gets that fire, that energy, gets pumped up and makes a comeback, wins the match. In the position of Damien Mizdow, he sees Miz as the babyface. And this is kind of convoluted and confusing, but I am getting to my point, so just hang in there with me. So there's a spot that's done with either a manager or it's also done in tag team matches where the babyface is taking the hit and the babyface is down. And then the person who is escorting them, whether it's a manager, valet, tag team partner, they start slapping the mat to get the people into it. So at this point, the crowd only wanted to acknowledge Damien Mizdow. Mizdow starts slapping the mat. From his perspective, Miz is the babyface. So at the same time, Sheamus starts pumping up himself for his own comeback. And Mizdow works this insane magic where he's able to take all of the attention from him and just Full Metal Alchemist, a Philosopher's Stone, transmute it over to Sheamus, and then Sheamus broke kick. Miz ends up winning. Oh, and I think it was a roll up. But I mean, that was a work of art, right? I mean, that's magic in pro wrestling. Am I wrong here? Am I just reading too much into this?
No, you're not, dude. I mean, Mizdow, we should not even call him a wizard. We should call him a necromancer because he brought this match back from the dead.
Done. Damien Mizdow, the necromancer. Sold. Book it.
Make it happen.
So, I want to transition quickly away from this match because we only have a couple points left, and we're starting to run long on our time, so I do want to kind of start getting this wrapped up. We got a breast cancer survivor shout-out. This was really cool. With some person named Joan London. Do you know who this person is?
Nope.
I don't know either. But apparently she's famous enough. Apparently she's struggling and fighting with breast cancer. I hope you beat it. Props to you for fighting the good fight, I guess, for lack of better phrasing. John Cena comes out, gives us a hug. It's all around feel-good moment. I mean, right?
It was. I mean, made you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I drink some hot cocoa, and I hope the best for Joan London, and that's all I got to say about that.
Fair enough. It's warm and fuzzies are never a bad thing. I love the warm and fuzzies. I think it's the closest thing you have to real magic in this world is to feel the warm fuzzies, and when you do, it's never a bad thing. Never a bad thing. So we have that, and now we can transition into our main event, which is John Cena versus Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, and Kane. As Triple H promised, Seth Rollins starts the match, but of course it's a handicap tag match, so he tags himself right out. Before we get into the actual shenanigans in the match, before the shenanigans begin, I'm just curious as to what your overall thoughts and expectations were, and then we'll get into the chaos that ensued moments later.
Okay. Well, my predictions were John Cena were to win by disqualification, and all three of them were going to prison bitch John Cena. Are you choking on something over there?
Yeah, I went down the wrong hole. Story of my life. I'm sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So, I mean, I predicted Ambrose was going to come out, but enough to help out Cena to win the match. But no. My first prediction was the correct prediction, and Cena won by disqualification. And he got his beat down.
He mostly did. And so we were talking about how earlier Ambrose was like, you know what, fuck it, man. I'm going to get a hot dog. I'm going to go to Coney Island. I'm going to ride the Wonder Wheel, whatever the hell it was. Ambrose shows up in the match with a legit city vendor hot dog cart. Wheels it down to the bottom of the ramp, eats a fucking hot dog. Like, seriously, just hot dog, eats it, like, whatever. And then Kane and Orton come out of the ring to kind of have this showdown with Ambrose. And Ambrose has this, like, spaghetti western gunslinger moment where he's got, like, holsters with ketchup and mustard in it, and he just squirts it in them. And then, of course, to see Randy Orton and Kane covered in ketchup and mustard is awesome, in my opinion. We got eat the hot dog chants, and then basically before we get into the eventual end goal, what did you think about Ambrose coming up with the hot dog cart and just your overall reaction and impressions?
That bit was hilarious. Got an awesome pop from the crowd, and him thinking that he was a hot dog cowboy, if you will.
If you will.
And then squirting Orton and Kane in the face with ketchup and mustard was hilarious. and then them transitioning into the ring, and then having Cena and Ambrose standing tall at the end of the night. It was, I mean, it was bittersweet, if you will.
Oh, if you will. And we'll get to the reason why that's bittersweet, but yeah, you're right, man. I really dug this. I thought it was fun. I mean, obviously it's no Austin with a beer truck, or even maybe even a little bit better, Kurt Angle with the milk truck, or Austin with the Zamboni, but it's kind of in the same vein, right? Where Ambrose is kind of a little bit out there, right? He says he wants to get a hot dog. Motherfucker comes back with a hot dog cart. I feel bad for the person he beat up and took the cart from, because you know that's where he got it from. He just beat somebody's head. I'm taking your hot dog cart. What are you going to do? And they were like, no, Dean, don't. And Dirty gets onto the concrete. But, but like, you know, I mean, this was fun, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the reason why wrestling is enjoyable is because aside from the possible comedy and more specifically high drama aspect, one of the reasons why people love wrestling is because it's right.
For real, man, it was awesome. I mean, everybody has that same scenario stuck in their head. They can see Ambrose totally taking the hot dog cart from somebody, putting a move on him, and just wheeling it back to the arena. So it was an awesome
I just wish we would have seen video of that. Like, you could have put that on the WWE app or whatever, or on the YouTube channel where he just takes this person's hot dog cart. It would have been amazing. So, the Authority comes out and basically books Hell in a Cell. And they basically say that John Cena versus Dean Ambrose, because both of them won a match against Rollins, but only one of them is going to actually get it. They're going to have their match. And if I'm not mistaken, and I want you to let me know if I understood this thing, is that they're going to have their match, and the winner later on will face Rollins in the actual cell itself. Am I understanding that correctly? Did you get that vibe as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. So, one quick question before we start wrapping up here. Do you feel like this is a problem that's indicative of gimmick pay-per-views? Like, this is something that should be done, right? But in my opinion, and I'm just going to make my argument, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts to see if you agree with me here. But you have Ambrose versus Cena, which in my opinion is a main event for a pay-per-view, right? That's a main event in and of itself. But the second, and in my opinion, more important thing is that should be its own match. And then next month, then you get the match. So that way you could build up for Cena versus whoever's going to face, or Ambrose versus whoever Ambrose is going to face. I personally think Ambrose is going to go over and get his match with Rollins. But at the end of the day, you know, is this something that suffers because Hell in a Cell has to happen at a certain time of the year? And would it have been better if Hell in a Cell wasn't specifically every October, and they could just book a Hell in a Cell match when they need it, as opposed to being restricted to, oh, well, shit, it's the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view time, we have to have a Hell in a Cell match, much like the Elimination Chamber and much like Money in the Bank. Your thoughts?
Well, the Hell in a Cell, I mean, it's scheduled already. I mean, it's probably scheduled for like the next 10 years. So, I mean, it's to be expected, and it's a nice build-up to whom is going to go against Rollins. Now, I would like to see more stipulations in a match, such as, is the Money in the Bank briefcase going to be up for grabs if they beat Rollins? That would be a nice twist to that storyline. But again, I mean, I foresee all three of them in the match, in the Hell in a Cell at one time. Something's going to happen. I foresee it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, and I do think your point about the Money in the Bank briefcase is rather astute, right? I don't know if they're going to do that now, but I'm going to assume that's the end goal, right? To eventually, because they did this, didn't they do this last year with Punk and Cena? Except instead of for the Money in the Bank, it was the #1 contendership to face Rock at Mania, or was it Mania or Royal Rumble? One of the two.
It was Mania.
It was Mania. Okay, but I mean, yeah, I think that you're kind of right on the nerve there. Is that's where that should be going, and I'm in absolute agreement with you. I just think that Rollins should never be allowed to cash in, and in fact, I don't think anybody should be allowed to cash in this year. Like, just have Dean Ambrose consistently. In my fantasy world, I would have Dean Ambrose just consistently screw him out of cashing in every single time, so that way it expires before he ever actually gets to use it. So that way he still looks strong in the sense of the possibility of having to cash it in, but just as far as the situation, isn't able to do it because he has this dude who's just on his ass, no pun intended. So, the match is booked. It happens. Ambrose, double arm DDT to John Cena. How sweet was that double arm DDT?
Yes! 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 Do I have to elaborate anymore?
No. No, I think that sums it up rather well. Ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much concludes our opinions overall of this week's Raw. But we do have a couple of quick things. Again, like, comment, subscribe, share, embed, post, go to the Facebook page. Again, that's going to be a comment section down below. Participate. We want to do bigger and better things with this channel and these video series. And the only real way to do that is we need more interaction. So please help us help you. Help us help you. Tom Cruise, Jerry Maguire, all sorts of references. Before we get into, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just get into it. Papo, we got an issue. We had a question of the week, didn't we?
Yes, we did. The question being, what is your all-time favorite match ever? And surprisingly, we had no hits at all.
Motherfuckers.
I'm I'm disappointed, but you know what, Ted?
You ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
So you know what, Ted? Please.
What's that?
What is your favorite match of all time?
Oh, man. This is a really, really, really tough one. When you say favorite match of all time, 3 immediately come to mind. So I'm going to mention 2 of them as basically honorable mentions and then arrive with my third. The first match that comes to my mind is Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, and I think it was either WrestleMania 24 or WrestleMania 25. It was their first match at WrestleMania. Do yourself a favor. Don't watch the second match. By comparison, the second match is terrible. And the only reason why I don't pick this as my favorite is because Shawn Michaels is incapable of putting on a figure 4. And I challenge you, anybody who thinks I'm wrong, you pop in any Shawn Michaels match on the WWE Network, on YouTube, on whatever, and you watch him apply a figure 4, he has no idea how to do it. He never... Okay, so a figure 4 is a version of the Indian Deathlock. But the trick is that you have to basically throw the back of your knee over the other dude's ankle to really apply the pressure. And by the way, real talk, reversing or rolling over a figure 4 does not magically make the other guy feel pain. That puts you in more pain. That's just really weird wrestling trivia. Anyway, long story short, that doesn't make my list. So the second match would have been the blindfold match between Jake the Snake and the model Rick Martel, and I believe this is WrestleMania 7. It's a pretty terrible match, but the crowd is so into it, and all they really do is they just point to see where the other guy is. And then this broke my heart because this year I found out in a shoot interview that they could see through the masks, which makes me very upset because I really deep down wanted to believe that he was using energy from the crowd. But if I had to choose, if you put a proverbial gun, a theoretical gun to my head, and you said, what is your favorite match of all time? I would have to say WrestleMania, I believe it was WrestleMania 18, Rock versus Hogan. That would be my favorite match of all time.
Very nice indeed.
Hello?
Yeah, I said that was very nice.
Oh, I thought we got disconnected for a second. So, Papa, I'm going to flip the script, dude. Hey, brother, why don't you tell us your favorite match of all time?
You ready for this one?
Oh, I'm ready.
I forgot what year it was. The match was The Rock versus Chris Masters in tribute to Owen Hart's death.
Ooh.
He came out to the ring and explained how much he loved Owen.
Wait, we're talking the Master Log Chris Masters, right? I mean, we're talking the
Yes.
same dude, right? Okay.
Yes.
For some reason, I don't remember this match. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, Owen Hart had passed in a scaffolding accident, and the Raw right after, they did a whole tribute to Owen Hart. The Rock went against Chris Masters and put on one of the best performances I've ever seen The Rock do. So much that it actually made me cry. I will admit that on the internet, live on Ted and Papo's Wrestling Exchange, that match had me emotionally distraught. Where me being a grown man cried as he wrestled for his departed friend.
Hey, man, that's nothing. That's nothing to feel bad about. I'm gonna be honest, man. My wife laughs at me, and she's a real bitch. Every time, what was it, WrestleMania 5? Every time I watch WrestleMania 5, where it was Macho King versus the Ultimate Warrior, it was a loser leaves town retirement match, and then at the end of the match, Elizabeth kicks out Sherry, and she has this moment with Macho Man. I cry like a bitch every time. Like I can't control it. So crying in wrestling, hey man, it happens. That's wrestling in its best, most purest form, because then it becomes like Game of Thrones, real hard hit, real high drama. That's an awesome pick. It's funny you mentioned Chris Masters. I didn't even realize he was on the roster at that time. I'm gonna go back and find it on the WWE Network for just $9.99.
$9.99.
Now, did I mention, because I'm pretty much done this drink. Did I mention the match of the week this week yet?
No, you haven't. You haven't touched on it yet.
All right, good. Match of the week, SummerSlam, 1991. It's an Intercontinental title match between Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect. Let me tell you that these are two of my favorite, would easily make my top 10 and greatest in-ring wrestlers of all time. Maybe not character-wise, maybe not spectacle-wise, but these guys put on a killer match. And if you have the chance, go watch this match. Papo, is that it?
That's it. We're all caught up now.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, like, comment, subscribe. In bed, share, do the Facebook thing. Go down there, tell us you love us. And for those of you who didn't comment on this week's question, shame on you. And we're going to send the boogeyman with worms in his mouth, and he's coming to get you. My name is Ted. That is my partner,
Papo.
Thank you very much for joining. Drive safe, and everybody have a very, very good evening.